What's going on YouTube? It's Logan Trimble coming at you again with another video, and today I'm going to review something from my childhood. Yeah, the other day I was going through an old VHS rack. I still have that in my house. And I came across something that really irked me, even though I liked it as a kid. And that would be this. Pokemon, the first movie. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Well, everybody watched Pokemon growing up, so why do you hate this movie? Okay. When I saw this VHS cassette, a pool of disappointing memories came rushing back to my head, and recollections of other people's reviews of this movie, and I just knew I had to check out this piece of shit again. Okay? Pokemon, the first movie, came out in 1999, and while it was a hit with kids, the sad fact is, were we really that stupid when it came to this movie? I know the anime was popular. I know that it started out as a video game, became a card game, became an anime, but why was this movie so bad? And as a former fan, I thought I could bring a better perspective to why this movie is bad and why it does not stand the test of time. Okay, first off, let's take a look at the tagline for this movie on the VHS. It says that the Pokemon match of all time is here. Mewtwo versus Mew, 150 versus 151. Those are the numbers for the Pokemon characters, by the way. And yeah, it all says down this corner that it has never before seen footage in the movie. And it's like, okay, there's not much to really see when it comes to this movie. Pokemon, the first movie, is essentially an extension of the anime. It's like the Simpsons movie, just an extension of that show. But the Simpsons was funny for its first 10 seasons. In retrospective, even the anime for Pokemon does not hold up. Alright, as you can see, I'm a huge Nintendo fan. I even wear my Legend of Zelda shirt with pride. I just love it. But I realized I outgrew Pokemon. And I had to revisit why I outgrew Pokemon. Okay. As someone who was a fan of Pokemon growing up, I can tell you, in retrospective, why I believed I liked it as a kid, why every kid believed that they liked it. And it was because, it was appealing to our fantasies, if you call it that, of wanting to go out into the wild, go on a journey and collect monsters and use them for battling. Because the idea for Pokemon came from the creators' love for bug collecting. Okay, forgive me, I don't know the creator's name. And I know I didn't do much research prior to this review, just so you know. But that's where the idea for Pokemon came from. It's like, okay, it sounds like a good idea on paper when you really get to it. But here's the thing. Pokemon is a game where you just go around fighting these monsters, which are pocket monsters. That's what Pokemon is romanized contraction of, the pocket monsters. You go around fighting them, you collect them, and essentially use them for cockfights or dogfights in retrospective. So yeah, that's one reason why we're not really nostalgic for Pokemon. So yeah, it has no story. And the anime, from what I recall with my retrospective, having grown up with it, it was always the same thing. It was like Scooby-Doo. Every episode was the same thing. There was no character development, no overarching stories. Nothing was well written. It was just go to random town A, help random character B, fight Team Rocket. They lose, they blast off again, get the star KO, and the characters go to the next location. Lather, rinse, repeat. That's how it is. That's all it is. So, it's like, okay, how can you make a movie based on that? The simple thing is, like I said, it's an extension of the show, so really, you can't. It's just an extension of the show. That's what this movie is. That's what basically all the Pokemon movies are, but we're mainly going to focus on this movie for this review. Okay. So, in this movie, Mewtwo is created by scientists, which does happen in the official canon for the games, from what I recall. And he decides to blow up the lab, then Giovanni takes him in, who essentially was the financier of the project, and has him fight for him as his, dog fighter. And the Mewtwo escapes. And then he invites all these Pokemon trainers like Ash Ketchum, Misty, and Brock, and as well as other no-name Pokemon trainers. Yeah, they don't matter. They don't matter. I'm not even going to bother to find out what their names are because they're entirely pointless. And they go to his island, they fight Mewtwo in Pokemon battles, and then Mew shows up because Mewtwo is a clone of Mew in the movie from what I can recall. But that's the thing. The fighting in this movie, it's not that great. I mean, okay, let's talk about one thing that is good about the movie. It's the animation. It's good. It's insultingly good, especially compared to the anime series that, like The Simpsons, overstayed its welcome. But yeah, I mean, in this movie, the animation is so much better than what we got in the anime. But that alone does not save a movie. So yeah, I mean, the battles are nicely animated, but oh my god, in retrospective, they're just so boring. And furthermore, this movie tries to teach us a moral. It's like, okay, nothing wrong with kids learning any type of moral in a film. I mean, Disney did it all the time with, like Aladdin, which was, be honest with yourself and those you care about. That was the moral of that story, even the original source material from the Arabian Nights. So what's Pokemon, the first movie, specifically this movie, going to teach us in its own movie? Oh, it's going to tell you that fighting is bad. Fighting is bad? Okay. You mean to tell me, movie, that you're trying to tell us that fighting is bad when you make your profits on nothing but fighting? Yeah, how hypocritical is that? To quote Nostalgia Critic, that's like O.J. Simpson going around saying it's bad to kill people. Yeah, that is so true. You cannot tell a story that goes against what it made its profits on. It's bad enough that this movie's trying to teach us that fighting is bad, but we see Pokemon fighting each other as Mewtwo's blocked out their powers, but that's beside the point. Mewtwo blocks out the powers, which again is besides the point, and has them just hit each other back and forth, and since they're fighting their own clones, you can't tell who's who. Definitely true about that, Nostalgia Critic, thank you. And the human characters never shut the hell up about how fighting is bad and Pokemon are not meant to fight, not like this. It goes on for like 5 minutes. It's like, shut up! We get it, movie. Fighting is bad. We won't fight. But again, that's so hypocritical. Even shows like the X-Men and Batman would never teach kids that fighting is bad. Those shows taught kids, fight for what's right. Stand up against those who are trying to start wars. Like X-Men did that against Magneto and other characters. And Batman, stopped the Joker from trying to murder thousands in Gotham. But yeah, I don't mind fighting. Okay? Even a kid's show, I don't mind fighting. And the kids' shows I watched as a kid growing up were not bloody or gory. Yeah, Wolverine became my favorite superhero, despite the fact that the X-Men cartoons never showed him actually stabbing anybody and having them bleed. But against robots, there was no mercy. That's why X-Men is just not X-Men without Wolverine slicing up Sentinel robots with his adamantium claws. But again, beside the point. Yeah, this movie tries to teach us that fighting is bad. It really does. That is so hypocritical, and it's insulting. But here's the thing. This movie goes from stupid to insulting. Because after Ash gets resurrected by tears, which is never explained in the English-American dub, just so you know, he's resurrected by the Pokemon crying over him after getting turned to stone by Psychic Blast from Mew and Mewtwo. And Mewtwo takes everyone back to where they began at the harbor with no memory of what happened to them. So we forgot the moral we were trying to learn the last hour and a half in the first place. So the moral makes no sense. It really doesn't. I mean, what, you trying to tell kids that fighting is bad as long as you don't remember that it's bad or something like that? Yeah. I'm convinced that as I got older, got past my preteen years, the reason why I gave up Pokemon was because of this fact about the first movie, which is a boring title, by the way, the first movie. It's like, come on. Here's the thing. Insulting the intelligence of children is something I do not respect, okay? There's making them suspend their disbelief, and there's just straight up insulting their intellect. Kids are not dumb. They do stupid things, but they're not dumb. Okay, back in the day, Roger Ebert, along with other critics like Joel Siegel, reviewed this movie together. And it's no surprise Roger Ebert didn't like it because it wasn't meant for him. He never got into the anime. He didn't care to learn about it either. But Joel Siegel, in his review, said something that's very true. He said he felt sorry for any kid who had this as their first experience to animated films. He said they should be exposed to something like, Pinocchio or even Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs first, but not something like this. And Joel Siegel, I totally agree with you on this. I really do. This is not something that a kid should be exposed to first. So yeah. That's the main problem with this movie, is that it has a moral that it shouldn't be teaching, and it's hypocritical, and leads to copping out. So we go from stupid to insulting to copping out throughout the third act of this movie. If you can call this movie a 3-act structure. Because the Pokemon anime had no story, and this movie doesn't have any story either, to be honest. But here's the thing. This movie didn't kill my love for Nintendo over the years. Okay? I love Nintendo. Even though I don't have much time to play anymore, I still love Nintendo. I'm a huge Zelda fan. I even named my cat Zelda. She has appeared in a video with me, doing a trick we do. I mean, as you can see, I love Nintendo. But Pokemon is the one thing from Nintendo I outgrew, and I had to outgrow. And it's mainly because of this piece of shit movie that never saw light of day. In truth, this movie was an obnoxious cash grab. Taking advantage of kids. And I get that it's made for the fans, which is fine. But you got to make it that even non-fans can come into it and still enjoy it. After all, the MCU, despite its problems, still keeps this tradition going. They make it that even if you're not a huge fan, you're going to go into the movie, you don't have to know everything, you're just going to enjoy the adventure, and there's no insulting your intellect. Okay? Because yeah, this is suspension of disbelief, and there's insulting your audience's intelligence. And Pokemon does this. Especially when it comes to this movie. Okay? So, is there anything else good I can say about this movie? Alright. There are two good things about this movie that I will admit. One, we previously discussed, which is the animation is good. And again, it's insultingly good, especially compared to the anime series. And the soundtrack is also good. But to quote Animania reviewer Suede, it's nothing but shoehorned in pop music that has nothing to do with the plot. Nothing at all. And here's the thing. I have gotten songs from this movie soundtrack onto my iPod. Because the movie soundtrack has nothing to do with Pokemon outside of, the theme song. But again, it's shoehorned in pop music that had nothing to do with the plot. Nothing. But that says a lot when the only thing nostalgic about this movie is the soundtrack. The animation, while it's good in this movie, you've seen better animation in Disney films. And I'm going to talk about the sequels a little bit up to number 3. I'm just going to say that Pokemon the Movie 2000, it has another bullshit hypocritical moral too, which is that Pokemon shouldn't be collected. It's like, okay, that's all Pokemon are for. Collecting. First an anti-fighting message, now anti-collecting. And a stupid prophecy in this movie about how Ash is the chosen one. Honestly, do you really care? Okay, a little improvement in this sequel, but not much. So what's Pokemon 3 like? Okay, Pokemon 3, from what I saw in Jew Wario, Sway, and Linkar's review, in retrospective, yeah, it's Silent Hill for kids. It is so much better. It's probably the best of the 3, but that's not saying much. So, while Pokemon 3 does feel like a Nintendo game, especially like, Super Mario 64, the end credits even feel like they keep the tradition going like, Super Mario 64 did back in the day with its credits. But again, Pokemon 3 isn't saying much, especially considering the track record that it had up till that point. But again, this video is mainly about Pokemon the first movie, and I gotta say, the hypocritical BS moral that's in this movie alone is enough to make this one of the worst movies, not just from my childhood, but one of the worst movies I've ever seen, period. Okay? This movie is abysmal. It's rubbish. Okay? I mean, the past couple of decades, I got rid of my Pokemon merchandise, even sold off my cards. I don't have the card that came with this game anymore, which was from Mewtwo. This movie. Yeah, you got a Mewtwo card with this movie, and I don't even have the cards I got from going to see, Pokemon 2000 or Pokemon 3, which we know was Ancient Mew and Entei, I believe. And I don't have those cards anymore. So, another reason why I had to outgrow Pokemon is because not only was it stupid, but Pokemon is a brand that has proven to be a guaranteed chick repellent since 1998. Yeah, when I gave this up, I didn't get a girlfriend, per se, but I have been able to befriend girls better. Because yeah, spoiler alert guys, girls don't care about Pokemon. You mention it, they will run away from you or die of boredom. So, Pokemon is just an idea from Nintendo that's overrated, and it's proof that despite the fact that it's still a successful franchise, it still goes to show that not everything Nintendo touches turns to gold. This and the Virtual Boy being the best examples. The Virtual Boy may be worse, but that's because your nostalgia goggles are on. You gotta take them off and realize, okay, Pokemon the first movie insulted your intellect when you were a kid, and it's unforgivable. And here's the thing. That's true, but I'm able to forgive Nintendo for the most part. Okay? Because like Shigeru Miyamoto and Takeshi Tezuka and even Eiji Onuma had nothing, I repeat, nothing to do with Pokemon. They've never had any credits attached to the franchise, especially because they've made better ideas. They know they're better ideas, like, Super Mario, Legend of Zelda, even like Gunpei Yokoi's idea for Metroid was better than Pokemon. It still is. It's the reason why, Mario, Link, and Samus are the nucleus of Nintendo, the Holy Trinity. And Pokemon is just not a good idea. It's not a masterpiece like, Super Mario Brothers 3, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, or even Super Metroid. I mean, in his book, Super Mario, How Nintendo Conquered America, Jeff Ryan said something very similar to what I'm saying now, which is that Pokemon is a franchise that, appealed to kids, but you gradually lost interest in as you grew older. I know there's still Pokemaniacs out there, and you're saying, I get why you're still a fan. I get it. You like that old nostalgic feeling of being a kid, wanting to go on adventures in the wild and fight monsters with your monsters you already have and collect them and go on to beat experts. But that's just a fantasy that doesn't hold a candle to, say, rescuing a princess, a dragon, a demon king, or bounty hunting, aliens on a backwater world as a human bounty hunter with a cool set of armor. Okay? Pokemon is nothing but collecting. And as a kid, I didn't finish Pokemon Red, and my brother didn't finish Pokemon Blue version either, because our fans did. They beat all the gym leaders, all the Indigo League. And they were like, okay, once you beat it, there's no reason to play. Just wander aimlessly. Yeah, you're a Pokemon master. You beat all the masters, but no one's going to give you recognition. There's no end credits. You just wander aimlessly. So, yeah. By the time I entered my preteens, Pokemon the Johto Journeys were starting on Kids WB, and I didn't finish that series, if you can call it that. I just outgrew Pokemon, and the cards rotted away in my basement for well over a decade, maybe even 15 years, I'd say. As did my merchandise, which we donated to a charity center. Like, the Pokemon toys you got from Burger King back in the day. Yeah, that's the thing about Pokemon. You had to outgrow it. At least in my book, I had to outgrow it. Same way I outgrew Digimon. And Digimon may have more of a story than Pokemon does, but that's not saying much. It's still go to random area A to fight random monster B. Lather, rinse, repeat. And there's no real character development. I mean, sure, the human characters grow up, but Digimon's still stupid. It's just Monster of the Week advertising like Pokemon was. It was a knockoff. And as a kid, I wanted to see Digimon the movie. My parents were like, you're not going to see that movie. Because they had enough of us buying merchandise for both brands. And here's the thing. Digimon the movie, while it was advertised and everybody wanted to see it, the fans that went and saw it, like my cousin, was like, just stay away. It's not memorable. And if you want more information on that movie, just watch Nostalgia Critics Review and you'll see why it's not a good film and why I'm glad I didn't see this movie, because like Nostalgia Critics said, it was an obnoxious cash-in, like Pokemon the first movie, as well as the other Pokemon movies. But Digimon the movie is one of the most obnoxious cash-ins of all time. So just a little summary. It's 3 movies in one, with stories and characters you don't care about, even if you're a fan. You just want the movie to be over. That's how it was like for the fans back in the day with that movie. But Pokemon the first movie, we were suckered in, just like we were with the entire trilogy. It was released in theaters. But here's the thing. I don't really bear a grudge against Nintendo as a whole for insulting children's intellect. And I'm not ashamed of the fact that I grew up watching Saturday morning programming blocks like Kids WB and Fox Kids. Those were the days. And I don't mean to sound racist, but I just feel like anime ruined all of it. We had better shows before anime came along. You know, we had Marvel and DC shows, we had Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, Pinky and the Brain, and even Batman Beyond and X-Men Evolution at the turn of the century. Those were the shows that defined a generation. Despite the fact that Pokemon was basically on virtually every day, because they just come up with a new episode about, you know, going to this location in the game, which there were many locations, I can't tell you how many, they're countless. And following the same lather, rinse, repeat storyline. So yeah, despite the fact that I am a geek, even I can tell you that sometimes nostalgia sucks. Okay? It's like how does my history with Marvel. I love the Marvel Universe, but I just can't get into the Fantastic Four. Even before the movies came out, I didn't really care much about them. I didn't know or care they had their own show in the 90s Marvel Comics universe, which has been revived recently with X-Men 97, sorry. It's just, I don't like the Fantastic Four because the roster doesn't change much, and it's really the only thing I don't like about Marvel. But here's the thing, I hate Pokemon as an adult. I love Nintendo, but I hate Pokemon with a passion. I'll only accept them in my collection when they're like in a Smash Brothers game or something, because that's for all of Nintendo history that Nintendo wants to pay tribute to, and that's fine. But yeah, Pokemon also makes me happy with my decision to never have kids. Because I can't go through all this again. And in case you're wondering, when Detective Pikachu came out, I didn't go see it. Even Ryan Reynolds voicing Pikachu, and I've listened to Pika 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 all the time, didn't gauge my interest. But hey, over a year ago, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the animated one, by the way, was released, and in my book, it's still good. So, Nintendo has come a long way. Even their former rivals they bought out, like Sega, have come a long way with their movies too. Big budget Hollywood movies about video games have definitely gotten better. It took a little over 20 years, but we finally have some good movies, like, you know, for Super Mario, Sonic, and Detective Pikachu was a hit with the fans, I know that. And it's basically Roger Rabbit, which, you know what, it's fine, as long as we don't have Ash Ketchum, that's good, because Ash Ketchum is not an interesting character. He's never won a league outside of the Orange League, from what I recall. And he gets no character development, he's annoying, he has no personality, but that's all the human characters in Pokemon. Alright? So, despite the fact that I have good memories with Kids WB, I gotta admit, this movie is horrible. It's, dare I say it, not only one of the worst movies I've seen in my life, but one of the worst films of all time. Pokemon, the first movie, does not stand the test of time. Even the sophisticated animation and good soundtrack does not save this movie. Okay? It's like when Nintendo develops a game. They put the gameplay first, and that's fine, because that's a game. When it comes to a movie or a show, you've got to have a strong narrative. Okay? You got to. Worry about the soundtrack and develop the animation as you go along later. Okay, and we'll develop the animation as you go along, but worry about the soundtrack later. And this movie was like, okay, we have a big budget, let's put it towards the animation, and let's get some pop stars to do the soundtrack. And it also didn't help that the Pokemon anime was done by 4Kids Entertainment. They are a horrible English dubbing company. Okay, I get they have to change things from Japan when they come over here because Japan is not our culture. They have different customs, which I'm not really going to get into. But 4Kids Entertainment was part of the problem. They helped contribute to having this movie insult children's intelligence. This and Pokemon 2000. So, yeah. I love Nintendo, but I'm probably not going to buy another Nintendo console or game again. And Shigeru Miyamoto, if by some random act of God you're watching this, let me know that. I'm just let you know. I'm still a fan of yours. I love your ideas. And I'm happy that you had no involvement with Pokemon. You and your best friends who helped make your ideas come to life. Okay? That's the way nostalgia can be sometimes. But again, I have great memories with watching Kids WB and Fox Kids. Those were great programming blocks, probably the best. And I wouldn't trade those memories for anything. But I don't get nostalgic for Pokemon. So yeah. If there's only two good things I could say about this movie, then I got to give this movie a resounding thumbs down. This movie is delightfully abysmal and should be forgotten. If I have kids, which I don't plan to, I mean, I have nephews now, but I'm not going to expose them to this rubbish. And you shouldn't either. So, this movie again gets a 2 thumbs down from me. Yeah, Nintendo is good. Pokemon, the first movie, and its sequel are terrible. This is Logan Trimble, signing off.